going to just check Facebook, just make sure this is working and it's casting to people. Let's have a look. I've also got a comments window so people can comment
Amazing.
on this. And it looks like it's working. Yes, it is. Okay, we're live. No watchers yet, but I'm sure that'll change. Hey,
Cool.
yeah, Year of No Gear Facebook Live. We've never done this before, but welcome. Thank you for checking it out. And yeah, this is episode 12. I lost count. So we're currently podcasting and live streaming at the same time with our first guest. Welcome, Christian Walsh.
Hello. How's it going?
I'm all right. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm alive. I don't have COVID. We're good.
That is very good. That is very good. I saw some. Did you see this morning? There was something come up that was about antibodies, or like Israel's found like an antibody or something for it, but it's not anywhere else. So it was a bit of like, it's probably nonsense.
Yeah.
But no.
Maybe 5G will cure it.
Oh, Ruz Evans is in the chat. Hey, Ruz, how you doing, man?
Word up.
Word up, rah. Okay, cool. Let's chat gear, man. This is fun. I actually quite like doing like this. I feel a bit less alone. So, Chris, you know what we do here. We talk about gear acquisition and all that sort of stuff, and how we manage it and all of that. You
hmm
and me chat about gear a lot. It was quite common that you and I are talking about guitars, amps, and pedals. How do you describe your relationship with buying stuff? What do you think you're in control of it? Do you have good days and bad days? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think the gas is real, as it is with everyone. Um, and I think I'm pretty much in control because I try and do it in a work basis. Like, do I need it for work? Will kind of guide as to whether I can have it or not.
Sure, that makes sense.
Uh,
Yeah.
apart from apart from the pointy thing off my shoulder here.
Oh yeah,
Um,
we were live streaming. You can actually show people things. So let's
yeah.
let's have a look. Go on, get it out. That's the
So so this is I think you can see that.
I can see it.
This is something I do not need for work.
But you need a fun guitar, I suppose. Like if you do play that thing a lot. You love playing it. So it's a
I mean, it's
Richie Sambora Kramer, right?
yeah, right. Although it's not a Richie Sambora because they had to call it a Jersey Star instead of a Richie Sambora because obviously he's not connected to them anymore.
Affiliated, right?
Um, I mean, it's got a gear stick on. It's great. You can,
What's wrong with a gear stick? Gear sticks are
yeah,
great.
right. Yeah, right. It's good. But generally, I try and justify gear with like, do I need it for work and can I afford it?
Sure.
And that kind of guides it. And then that got released and it all went out the window. So
Yeah, that does happen. Sorry, I've just turned my mic up a little bit. Ruz has just commented in the chat. Thank you as well. If there's any technical difficulties in the chat or anything, or you want anything sorted out, besides Chris's laggy camera, it's doing its best. But I think it's just kind of the way it is because we are recording the audio at the same time. But yeah, please let us know. Okay, cool. So you kind of use a work basis. So what kind of work basis would allow for something to come into your arsenal, as it were? So like what give us an example of when you might need it. Are we talking like I need picks and strings, or are we talking like actually this guitar would really help me with this uh you know this thing I'm
so
doing?
so picks and strings and stuff like that, just you need to get that stuff anyway. So
Yeah,
I don't really count that as gear because it's you can't do anything without picks and strings. Um, so I think if the job is a regular one that well pays, say I don't play much rock music in terms of like I'm not doing the classic rock thing, right?
yeah,
If I was, I'd probably need a Les Paul, really. And then if it was a well paid enough gig or I had a series of them, then I could probably justify the guitar if there was like a tour or a series of shows.
sure. I don't know though, a lot of people, I maybe I'm being a little bit biased here. I think because rock music is the guitar music, I think a lot of guitars, personally, I feel like most guitars, maybe excluding things like jazz masters and stuff, I think most guitars can do rock music pretty well if if you've got their tonal characteristic in mind and you can set up and work with it. Like, I've been like my Strat is weirdly good at it, and I wouldn't think the bridge pickup of a Strat would do it well, but if you roll the tone back and set the pedals up right, and yours does as well. You've got a great
Yeah,
Fender Strat, which I've played rock stuff on, and it works really well for it.
for sure. And so just to contradict everything I've just said, I could do a rock gig on the gear I've got, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, so my latest purchase was a Strymon Iridium, which is fantastic. Obviously, it's been invaluable through the online work that's come in. But taking that forward to when we're allowed to play in real life, using that in like a wedding, where there's a sound limiter, or it's one of those rooms that just an amp is a nightmare. It's just going to be fantastic for that kind of scenario. So
yeah, it does sound good as well. You
yeah,
sent me, you casted to me with the audio actually, and I think that is a bit of a thing that's happened during this time, is people's online setups have really had to step up, and maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like I did notice, I don't know if you noticed this. Did you notice that whether you watch a live stream gig on on the computer at the minute or on Facebook, as it all is, if somebody's audio or video sucks, it kind of, like, not to sound like a downer, but kind of doesn't matter how good they are. If the audio and video are just awful, they're not going to necessarily get the airtime as somebody whose audio and video is literally like I found myself doing it. I've gone and watched gigs and just found that I've got limited kind of interest in poor quality sound compared
for
to
sure.
good quality sound, and that's really vapid and horrible. And because I know a lot of these artists are really great, but the setups, it's a thing now. It's a thing while this is all going on, that the setups need to be good enough, and for teaching as well. Like you said, it's just no good if your student can't hear what you're doing. I especially feel for drummers teaching in this time, because
Yeah,
Zoom has this thing in it where it cuts, if it goes too loud, it cuts off the audio.
yeah.
For drums, it totally is.
I mean, the drum teacher we work with, Patch, he had to go and buy mics
Yeah.
to get his kit set up at
And
home.
there's no
And
well, you could have done without it. You literally can't. It's like
yeah,
it's hard. It's really difficult. Yeah. No, you're
I
right.
mean, I live in flats, and for the first month, I had an amp in the corner that was cranked. It's like the amount of people I must have pissed off is many.
It's all right. You can get new neighbours.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, have you ever bought? I've written a question down here. So, when you buy gear, is it completely practical? Is it ever like an emotional thing for you? Do you ever find that when you're feeling a little bit down, you can get a bit spendy, or you can get in trouble? Oh, Joe Bradley's in the chat now. All hell's breaking loose.
Oh God. So my
He's
answer
here.
to that question is here.
Yeah.
I think, and a student asked me recently, should I get this like cheap guitar, or should I get this slightly more expensive guitar? Basically, I think it was like a Squier or a Fender. I don't know. And I was like, well, what can you afford? They were like, either. Okay, well, what's going to inspire you to play more? Like, what's going to make you practice? The one that you like the look of, surely, and the one that looks cool in the mirror. Because when we started guitar as little kids, we all had that thing. We want to look good, right? So I
is this
think
a younger student or an older student?
teenager.
Okay.
So I was like, well, if they both feel good to play, then pick the one that looks cool. If money isn't an object, so
Sure.
I think if it's that kind of emotional thing's always in there for us. I think as guitarists, that we're like, well, yeah, but it looks good though, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and that's it. I mean, was it a difference between a Squier Strat and a Fender Strat?
Yeah,
I mean, look wise, you could argue against it. I suppose they kind of look the same to a point. I know they sound different, but
yeah. I mean, I think imagine if one was red, one was black. What do they prefer?
yeah.
Um,
Fair enough. But you don't.
Yeah.
You yourself, you don't find. I know you bought the Jersey Star, but like you're fairly. I think you're fairly controlled from what I've seen. You don't buy obsessively. You haven't got a new thing every kind of month. You've had pretty much the same rig for most times. You're pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the pedal thing. Obviously wearing that pedal show T-shirt. So the pedal thing is a bit of a revolving door. Stuff comes in and out more with that, but I try and make sure that if I buy something, another thing is sold. So,
Sure. I mean,
but yeah,
that leads me quite nicely on to my next question. Was the whole thing
okay,
about, do you find it's worst with guitar amps or pedals? So you think it's pedals?
yeah. I mean, I've had the main three guitars, electric guitars, for some years now. Um, so that's not a problem. Amps, I think I've bought a lot of Will Edmonds.
Yeah,
um,
you have. You've bought. Yeah, you've bought a lot of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, helped him pay his rent. But yeah, no, for me the thing is pedals because it's a one in one out, but that happens a lot.
I think it's kind of easier with pedals a little bit because they're cheaper, right? An amp or a guitar is a big investment, whereas a pedal's a lot less of an investment. So you
Yeah,
get
for
less
sure.
kind of lost in it, I suppose.
And they're small, so they don't really take up much space. So you don't really think like, oh my god, this is like a guitar shop in here. It's like just it's another pedal. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's with so you're with pedals. That's cool. What was the best choice of? Please don't say the Jersey Star. What was the best thing you've ever bought? Like, what money wise? What do you think was the you would buy it again if you had the opportunity?
So apart from the Jersey Star, it's got to be the gig rig um, quartermaster that I use with my pedals.
Okay, that's a switcher, right?
Yeah,
Cool. So,
uh,
is it 6 button, 4 button? What did you?
uh, six. Sorry, I had to count.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's six. It's not like the G2 they do. It's basically each individual pedal is on a little loop, so it's just on and off or flip flop, and it meant that the whole tap dancing thing is minimized. It's just it's all in one row, and I've actually found that the sound quality of each pedal is brought to life a little bit more.
They're really clean signal path, aren't they? They are really good for that. I used to have one. I used to have I think it was a 6 channel one, and just that flip flop thing's really cool. So just to like describe what that does in a little bit more detail, could you go into what that means, like flip flopping?
Yeah, so most of the time I have a clean amp, and I'll have one drive pedal, which I'll normally use as like the second channel of the amp, because I just use one channel amps. So say I go onto that, and then I want to use a like a solo sound. So what I'll do is I'll then press channel 2, for example, on the switcher, and then that'll just go to the next pedal, which is obviously the next step up, and then it'll turn off that existing pedal.
So it basically,
With
if you've got two loops on, it'll just get rid of one loop and go straight to the other one and turn the so you've got one loop on, it'll turn the loop that's on off when you turn to the other one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Amazing.
So you don't have to do that 2 button thing that you used to.
Mm.
And not only that, they're next to each other. You know, you don't have to go into different postcodes to turn stuff on and off. So
That is cool. So okay, cool. So Quartermaster was the best thing you bought. What about
yeah.
the biggest waste of money? I love this question. This is always
Biggest waste of money. It was probably during my journey to find my Strat that I've got now.
okay.
That you've played it. It's an amazing Strat.
It is good. Yeah, it's very good.
Uh, I think I took about 8 months finding the right one. And in that time, I went to Denmark Street and bought it was a factory special run, an FSR, which is like maple neck, black with white pickups. It was very Gilmore, and it had a humbucker in the bridge. And I think I didn't even take the cling film off the pick guard. I think I had it for like 3 days. Tried to return it, they wouldn't accept it, and then I had to sell it. It was just like, why did I have that guitar? Because it was like satin finish all over. It felt really weird.
Mm.
It was like a Gilmore copy, so it made me look like I bummed David Gilmour.
Did it not sound good? Like what?
Yeah, but the humbucker in the bridge was just unnecessary.
Okay, so you're
Like,
like an old school. You like a Strat to
yeah,
be a Strat as it is, kind of thing.
for sure. And I think I realised that as soon as I bought it and didn't gig it, and just instantly sold it. and then a month or so down the line, I found the one.
It's really funny with the Strat stuff because I started on a humbucker Strat. My first good guitar was a Lake Placid Blue HSS Strat, and
Right.
I loved that guitar. But only years later, when I finally got a Les Paul, did I realize that the humbucker in a Strat, as much as you want it to sound like a Les Paul, it will never
That
sound like it. You know,
that's the thing. I don't know. Like I was sat in the guitar shop playing it, and I'm like, oh great, I don't need to buy a humbucker guitar because I have a humbucker in the Strat, and it had the coil tap thing.
mm,
So but that never sounds as good as a single coil,
no.
which never. It's like that whole setup is a compromise, and I'm like, just take two guitars to a gig, like.
Well, like
And
when are you gonna? It's really unlikely during a song that you're gonna need to switch between two different kinds of pickups as well. That's the thing. It took me a couple of years to realize that that's super uncommon to find a song where you're in one position and you need a single coil, and then straight away you need to go like to a death bucker. It doesn't happen very much. And if you so I take the example of like a metal song or like any of the stuff, because I was a punk rock kid, and all of the clean sounds, they were just really low output humbuckers or like cleaner
yeah,
humbuckers, and then but they sounded sparkly, so they sounded like single coils. And it's the tone controls, man. You just work with what you've got in that guitar. But I
for
totally
sure.
agree with you. I don't know, part of me kind of wants my blue humbucker Strat back, but the other part of me gets that you know, in the scheme of things, does it make a difference?
I
Not
mean,
really.
I remember watching a video that Joe Bonamassa did with Guitarist magazine some years ago now, and he was sat in this sort of loft or an attic with a Les Paul, just straight into an amp, cranked it, and the premise of the video was just like learn how to use your guitar with the pickups and the volume control, you before you do anything else. And it's like, well, yeah, what, like you're not going to need to be a humbucker and a single coil in the same song. I can't think of the example that you might do, but if you do, just hit a pedal,
Yeah, or yeah, use a compressor or something. Yeah, you can
something. Yeah,
change, or an EQ pedal even. That'll do it.
yeah,
No, you're right. You're totally right. There's oh, when you like have a thought and it's just like it flies away. I've just done
yeah.
exactly that. It was really good as well. But yeah. All right, cool. Let's just move on to the next question. Maybe it'll fly
All
back
right.
in. Cool. So biggest waste of money was that Strat. Uh,
Yeah, lost
w-
about 2 days.
yeah, I've been there, mate. I've been there. So it's kind of a weird question to ask, but have you ever found yourself in a rabbit hole? Have you ever had like a gear search that's gone on for years and years and years, and you've just gotten frustrated? Because I've totally had this with certain kinds of guitars and things where I've been in a hole trying to find the answer to what I'm trying to do for years, and found my way out of it. Have you ever had anything like that?
I I don't think so, and I think the more the more woke I've been with gear, the less that has happened. For example, I think just the invention of the pedal show.
Mm.
Uh, I'm more likely to just go straight to the right answer because of not only the knowledge they give, but also just you can, with the invention of YouTube, you can just hear all the things you want to hear.
Do you find that paralyzing though sometimes? Do you find that forums and things like that can sometimes, lead you astray or not help you find your answer? Because I definitely find that. I find that forums and stuff can really, I can get lost in those because someone will say this pickup sounds like shit and you're not hearing it. So you don't know what it sounds like.
So I will say I've actually never been on a forum.
Okay, good. Don't.
So
It's a yeah. That is the king of rabbit holes.
yeah, I've heard it's a big shit show, and I'm not really keen about that. So I've never done that. What I have done is always go to a reputable source, be it any of my previous tutors or friends currently, like yourself. I'll ask you about whatever. I'll ask different people about different things, and I kind of do.
Bearing in mind, I didn't tell you to buy the Jersey Star, so just throwing my hands up here and
I'm pretty sure. Well, you helped me with the color. It was white or red.
It was white or red, and did I say white?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
So yeah, I think I've always been quite. I've always kind of done my research, be it asking tutors or friends, or just my peers, I guess. And I've never bought a guitar online. I've always gone and played it.
I don't think you can really. I think it's just too much of a risk,
Yeah,
unless it's like your first one. But if you don't play it, they need work as well, man. Sometimes they need
yeah,
fixing. One of the biggest things I find is lost in when you buy guitars, or even when you buy guitars from shops and stuff, is the pots. Like, if you notice this, like good pots on a guitar, like on a factory run guitar, they're rare. They're rare that the pots work properly and actually, roll down properly and do the thing they need to do and everything.
yeah. And I personally like a bit of a higher action. So whenever I buy a guitar, it needs a setup to make it play like I want it.
Yeah. And that
I'm
can
sure you're the
literally
same.
be the difference between if you go in on the day and it plays well, you'll
Mm.
love it, and if it doesn't, you'll hate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's totally thing. Have you ever bought a guitar and sort of like where you liked the setup on the day and then it just fell apart? Oh, that's a really gorgeous angle for me to freeze on there. Did you see that? Just freeze
Yeah.
now. It's just like
It looked like an otter.
it did. It did. Yeah. Have you ever bought anything and sort of found that the setup was right on the day, or the setup wasn't right on the day, and you've brought it around, or vice versa? Have you ever brought something and it was set up perfectly on the day, and then you tried to change it and ruined it?
Uh, no, I don't think so.
That's good.
Sorry.
That's
Yeah.
no, it's good. That's good. You've been lucky. You've done well. I've definitely, changing things as well. I've changed my way out of. Oh, Ayrton is in the chat. Hello, Ayrton. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. That boy knows gear as well. I should get him on.
Yeah, right.
He really, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, I mean that boy's Instagram is
Scary.
fascinating to follow.
Scary. So how do you stop yourself when you do get squirrely and you want to buy equipment?
Mm-hmm.
How do you stop yourself? If you want to stop yourself, that is. Do you have any thought processes that you go through where you go, oh, maybe this isn't the right thing for me to be, buying right now, or I don't really need this? Like, do you have any techniques or things that you can share with people when they're getting squirrely with gear?
I don't know about techniques, but it kind of goes back to that first thing I said. Like, I'll try and you need to justify what you buy to yourself. I think quite a lot of the time, and I'll be looking at something. I'm like, yeah, but how often am I really going to use that? And then that'll kind of be the marker for me. Like, in a imaginary world where money's no object, I think I would still think, yeah, but really, how much am I going to use that? True. And I think that's kind of why I've kept the same 3 electric guitars for years now.
So what are your main electric that you're using at the minute? I'm sure people will be interested to know.
So I've got the Surf Green Telecaster that I bought off Will Edmonds.
I don't know. You can't see the chat here. Joe Bradley said, haha, whenever Will sells something, you buy it. I'm so glad to hear you admit it.
Yeah, right. Although Will's got a couple of nice things for sale that I won't be buying currently.
I'm sure. Well, it's different times right now, isn't it? So yeah, sorry,
right.
I cut you off there. Surf Green Telecaster.
Yeah, the Sonic Blue Stratocaster.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same as Mick Taylor's. And then my 335 as well.
Which is a beautiful guitar, that thing.
Yeah. It's the best.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, so it's the best thing I've ever played, hands down.
I was surprised that wasn't your best purchase out of, what you said, because, yeah, that thing is crazy good. Like, I used to have one. I had a Trini Lopez 335, and I've even said to you on so many times, it just sounds better. It just sounds better than mine did.
I mean, unplugged, it just sounds awesome. I think I sent you a clip, like an outtake of some recording where you just heard it unplugged. And you just commented how good it sounds on its own. It's like, yeah, it's just awesome.
That's it. When they're built right, they are
Yeah,
built right without a
that
doubt.
was one of the last years of the Memphis production before they moved over to Nashville.
Really, I didn't even know they
Yeah,
weren't even doing them in Memphis anymore.
yeah.
That's interesting. Nice, nice. Have you got any advice for people to get back to playing from gear? Like, so when you're getting into a gear, because I find this sometimes. Sometimes I can get into gear holes, and my playing slides out. So I'm not practicing as much. I'm not working so much on what I want to be working on. Um, how do you have any stuff that you? Oh, comment from Ayrton here. Simon did an amazing job setting up that 335. I remember playing it at the Bristol Jam. Such a beaut. Simon? Who's Simon?
Simon Bamber, he runs Psycho Setups.
Nice. Little plug
Uh,
there.
yeah, which I would recommend if people need stuff doing. He's just he used to work for that guitar company in Bristol that make guitars.
Waghorn?
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, he used to work for there. He just knows his stuff. Um,
Nice.
yeah. What's the question?
So it's all right. I just said how do you get back to playing from your gear habits when you're getting
Right.
kind of geary?
Uh, I'm going to answer like a politician and say that actually they work together. um,
Okay.
because
Interesting. Can you elaborate on
yeah,
that?
so it's like what I was saying to that student. Like you've got to want to play the guitar to play the guitar, right?
Sure.
So for me to practice my 80s shred licks, like I'm going to feel more inspired on the Kramer than I am a 1960 Relic Stratocaster. You know?
Okay. Yeah, cool. I can see that. So yeah, if you have the thing, if that's a genre you want to go into and you want to play,
Right,
having the right tools helps you play more.
for sure. I think it's a psychosomatic thing in that, you know, it looks like you can play that and it'll sound in your head at least more like you can play that. And uh if you want to go down a rabbit hole, the whole neck radius thing, some things are just easier to play on some things, I think.
Sure. Okay. Would you
um
not, just to be devil's advocate here, if you were getting into it, I don't disagree with you. I think I think you're right. I think having the right gear definitely helps with that.
yeah,
What I guess my devil's advocate thing would be like, because this is where I kind of go with that stuff. I think sometimes if the setup's not right for the guitar, so if I'm doing shred licks, but I'm not doing it necessarily on like a completely flat radius, if I can still do it on a high radius, does that not mean it would be easier on like a lower radius? So there's benefits to playing it on a guitar that's not set up for it.
yeah, I think that's totally true. I think well, Joe Bradley, if you're still listening, um he played my Kramer and he was like, the action's too high, I can't shred on this.
Mm.
uh and that was just before lockdown. And then during lockdown, I just lowered the bridge a bit, and it all just started to play itself. It's great.
Yeah.
So I think you're right as well. I think if you can kind of do it on a 1960 Strat, then you can do it on anything really.
Mm. Your Strats radius is 9.5, right? It's not curved it's not 7.25, so like it's not really curved in.
Uh, yeah, I think that's right.
Because I do find that I've got my Strat's got a curved radius to it, and it's I can't play anything fast on that. And I know people can, and people always go like, "Well, John Mayer plays with a 7.25 radius." It's like, yeah, he's John Mayer. I'm not like
Yeah,
I can't. My
yeah.
hands just hate it.
That argument pisses me off. It's like, oh yeah, but John Mayer can do it. It's like, yeah, but he's really good.
Well, it's the same thing with most artists, isn't it? I had a similar
Yeah.
conversation about Nile Rodgers with one of our guests, where I went to see Chic play live, and people have always
It's,
so that we were talking about compressor pedals,
uh-huh.
and every time someone talked about a compressor, they were going like, "Well, like, why do you need a compressor? Nile Rodgers like needs a compressor." And Fred, my guest, was like, "Yeah, but you're not Nile Rodgers." like
Right.
And also, I've heard Nile Rodgers play live, and there's definitely a compressor in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you can just hear it. I like whether it's on the desk or whatever. Someone's compressing something, because it just wouldn't jump out of the mix without it. You wouldn't
Yeah.
hear him. So yeah, there are a lot of kind of arguments to that, I suppose. Cool, nice one. This has been fun, man.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing this. Let
that's all
me
right.
finish up with a kind of a double whammy question.
Ooh.
So, what would be your absolute bare bones simple rig setup you would recommend for somebody? Say somebody that's doing maybe a sort of a low profile original thing, and also maybe something, like functions and things like that. Someone in your like field of work. One amp, one guitar, one pedal to get through all of that. What would you recommend?
I'm gonna change the question and say two pedals because one of those has to be a tuner.
That's fine. Well, I always say to people, tuners are allowed. Imagine
Tuners are
you've
allowed.
got a
Okay.
tuner already. So
Right. So, I mean, the guitar it's a bit of a personal preference thing, but for me, I'd have a Strat, a Tube Screamer, and a Fender Hot Rod type amp. That's
okay,
it.
any Strat, like a Squire Strat, a Fender
Yeah,
Strat.
you just need a Strat that you like playing, a Tube Screamer because everyone needs one. They're great.
How do you use a Tube Screamer? Do you use a Tube Screamer as like a drive sound, or do you use it as a solo boost?
Solo boost almost always.
So you have the drive down and the volume up, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
But that's because I have other drive pedals. But if I was using it just on its own, I guess a bit more drive, and then
I
you can
used to
just use
use
the
it as a
volume.
drive pedal. When I just had my AC30, I used to use a Tube Screamer as an overdrive. It was great. It
Yeah,
sounded
and
wicked.
and in that scenario, I just use the volume on the guitar a bit more
Sure.
to get the boost. But yeah, I think the Fender Hot Rod sort of family of amps. I mean, I was using a Fender Hot Rod for about 12 years. Like, it's just, you don't need anything else, really.
They are good amps.
Yeah.
Some of the Tweed ones and that I've seen some friends have, and they're not expensive either, are they? They're sub a grand, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think I got my Hot Rod for about £500 12 years ago, like secondhand.
That is good.
Yeah. And you can just pick them up for like 400 now. I think I sold mine for 400. That
Amazing.
is,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, here's the double whammy question. So I asked this to Ben last week, so I'm gonna see how you get on with this.
Right.
Okay, you can have your dream rig, so you can have one guitar, one amp, one pedal, okay?
Yeah.
But you have to trade everything you have for it. And that includes vintage gear, so you can get whatever vintage guitar you want, but you have to be willing to trade all your stuff. First of all, do you do it? And secondly, what is that rig that you trade for?
Uh, First of all, no deal.
Okay, right.
I think I don't know. Oh man, you didn't prepare me for this. So I think the dream rig, if we'll work backwards, I think the dream rig would be like a two rock amp. But then I want to keep my 335 in this. That's the
Okay, so you're not willing to trade up, but think
no.
about the dream rig. What's the goal? What's the
Um,
tone you're trying to get to in your head when you play?
uh, and next up in my list of generic answers is John Mayer. It's that vintage Strat with the kind of light overdrive with a bit of a tube screamer in it into a two rock kind of amp.
So you're just
That's
talking like a 62 Strat with a two rock
yeah,
amp and
yeah,
a tube screamer. Okay.
yeah.
So you've just gone. It's still Strat amp and tube screamer. I've just gone for
Yeah,
a
it's just
posher Fender and a posher Strat.
yeah, it's just more expensive.
Well, if it's good, it's good. But
Right.
that's fair enough. That is totally
Uh,
fair enough.
yeah, I think I just won't swap my rig just because that would involve me losing my Strat and my 335 and all the stuff I bought off with Edmonds. So, kind of
Yeah.
that.
Would you? I mean, vintage guitars is interesting. I'm conscious of time, but the thing about vintage guitars I always find is if I actually owned a 62 Strat or my dream one is a 59 or 60 Les Paul Junior double cut. Like that's my absolute top.
Right.
But I know that just the finance on that and having it, I wouldn't gig it. And then I think, well, what's the point in owning it? Especially if you get on with your custom shop.
Yeah, I mean, my Strat is a 1960 custom shop relic. It's like it's almost better than a vintage guitar. Now, I will say I've not played many actual vintage guitars, but they're hit and miss. You know, you can get a good one, you get a bad one,
Mm.
and
Have you ever
it's you
played a
may
bad
as
one? You ever played a really bad vintage guitar?
uh yeah. I used to actually own an '80s Strat. I guess that counts as vintage these days,
Yeah.
and it was a piece of shit. Like it's just
Just
like
didn't
why
play.
they made that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, the custom shop's so good now that the quality control is just up there. Um, whereas from what I hear, the vintage stuff is hit and miss for sure. I don't know. And I mean, I think if I did own a vintage guitar, I would gig it as much as my normal stuff. I think I'm on Joe Bonamassa' side with this. If you have vintage gear, use it
Sure.
because it's been made to play.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, it's still singing. It should still be singing on stages, sort of thing.
Right.
I don't
It's
know.
what it's for.
As
I
much as
think if
I
it's one of a kind, maybe
Yeah,
not.
as much as I believe that, I just know where I would get to with it. I feel like I would just get nervy, and then you think just the risk of it. Like my 45 was a prime example of that. I spent so much money on that Trini Lopez that I had, and I just never gigged it because I was just too scared of something happening to it.
Right. I
Which
mean,
shouldn't
my
happen.
I don't know. Both my 335 and my Strat were expensive. Um, you know, they're both sort of really high quality, but I'm not precious about taking the Strat, probably because it's relict and like another ding doesn't matter. But yeah, the 335, I'm certainly more conscious about where I take it,
Yeah, same.
and that's a 2015 thing. So yeah,
Sure.
I understand that, but then if it's a museum piece, that's a different thing to just a relic instrument that's made to be played.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, if you have it, you wanna use
Yeah,
it.
like if it's one of the last remaining 1954 Strats, I understand that not being gigged,
Mm.
but you know,
It was
if
a
you're buying a
factory.
night,
They did make a lot of them.
right, the whole point of Fender was that it's like a factory.
Mm.
So,
Nice one, Chris.
but yeah,
Thank you for doing this today. This has been great.
mate, not a problem.
I've really enjoyed this live stream thing. Of the visual really adds something. So I'm gonna try
Cool.
and do this again. But we'll get you back on. We'll come up with a topic and we'll get you back on and just for a general
Yeah,
chat
man,
at some point. But
always up for that.
awesome. Thank you for coming on, man, and thank you
No
for
worries, man.
listening. Thank you for listening in, everybody. Thank you for everyone in the chat. Ruz, Joe, Ayrton, everybody getting involved. Really appreciate that. This video is going to be up on my Facebook for a little while as well, and hopefully it'll go up on YouTube when I can find out how to do that. So yeah, we're going to start our YouTube channel over in the next couple of weeks, and tune in next week because I'm going to have another great guest on. So I'll see you next week. Thanks, Chris. Take it steady.
Nice one. See you later.